Well, we left this morning from Mobile, Alabama, and we happened to be on the west side of the bay, Mobile Bay there. So we left this morning and went across the bay. Water was pretty nice, nice and calm. Really, no big issues. Wasn't a long crossing. It was only a couple hour crossing. We made it to Gulf Shores in Mobile here. Uh, this is kind of right after we left the bay, maybe a mile or two. Was we were in the what they call the Florida Ditch Canal, which is the intercoastal, and there was a small marina here, and we decided to go ahead and pull over. You can't see the restaurant, but it's to the right of the screen here. So it was around noon, so I decided might as well stop, grab something to eat, lunch, have some lunch, and then go ahead and continue on. I didn't want to stay here. I figured we still had at least maybe 2, 3 more hours of traveling that we could do. So uh, decided that'd be the best bet. Is grab and get a full meal and travel. Maybe till late today, since everything is running pretty good. And we'll probably make it into Florida sometime today. We're not that far away from the Florida coast now, or the borderline of Florida. So we decided to go ahead and take off and see how far we're going to be able to get. I'm not sure how far we're going to get today, but I'm pretty sure we'll be in Florida sometime later on today. Uh, like I said, everything was so far is running pretty smooth. We haven't had any major issues or anything. Uh, Went ahead and took off and kind of went in a little bit of the ways just to kind of look at the marina. It's a small little marina, not very large. There were some boats in there, but not not a big major marina. But still looked pretty nice. The restaurant was pretty nice. Food was good. I think a little pricey on the pricey side, but anytime you're underwater like this, that's to be expected. Uh, Anytime you're traveling up and down like this, of course, they know that when you're traveling on a boat or something like that and you want to stop by and grab something to eat, it's more of a convenience. And you do it, whenever you get the opportunity because you don't know when your next stop is going to be unless you know the area. But it was good. No complaints about the food or nothing like that. It was okay. And huge, like a bar restaurant type thing. It was outdoors, under canopies and stuff. So we decided to go ahead and move on and keep going. And now we're actually on what they call the ditch. Uh, I'm not sure where the ditch part of it is, but anyway, you can see to the left there. There's like a park area for kids and stuff like that, and then right under that green roof there is part of the restaurant, and like I said, it was nice, good food, no complaints really. Uh, and here we are going into the intercoastal again. As soon as we come out of here, we'll be back on the intercoastal heading to Florida, and maybe hour, 2 hours at the most, we should hit the border of Florida, and that's basically where I started from Florida, Tampa, Florida. So uh, everything's been running good and almost done. Uh, Not too much further. I probably figure maybe 2, 3 more videos of the trip, and I would have completed the Great Loop. Uh, some of the accomplishments that you know you, that you want to do in life and stuff like that. This was something that was on my bucket list, and I kind of planned for about 3 4 years. Always thinking, what kind of boat could I do it with? What do I need? What kind of cost is going to be involved? And so there's a lot of planning that has to go into this. You don't just jump on a boat and say, I'm going to go do this and take off. Like I said, I did quite a bit of planning on it, and finally decided, do it now or never going to end up doing it. I kind of had a time frame that I wanted to do it in, so that time frame was getting pretty close to where I either was gonna not make it and not hit my deadline as far as my time frame was concerned. Last year I couldn't take off because of COVID, so that was a lot of problems. Come find out, when I called around several marinas last year when I was planning on making the trip, that a lot of the marinas were not allowing transit boaters to come in and out. They wouldn't even let you come in and pick up fuel unless you had a boat there in that marina. You could go there, but other than that, no transit boats were being allowed to come in and out. And that was going to create a problem, obviously, because if you're somewhere where you're running low on fuel and you can't get to a marina to pick up fuel, obviously you're not going to go nowhere until you solve that. So that was one of the big things of why I didn't do the Great Loop last year. So I kind of had to wait this year. And then, of course, what hit me is the gas prices. Everything went up. The gas prices went up pretty high. So the marina prices even go up higher than your regular gas station prices were. So you normally pay at between $1 and $1.50 more when you fuel up at a marina versus fueling up at a Circle K or a 7-Eleven that sells fuel. But that's just part of the game of boating. That's something that you have to calculate in your travels. This was a pretty nice trip. I was cruising along nice. And as you can see, the boat was hardly bouncing, but I was moving pretty smooth, pretty fast also. So that's the good part about not being out, out in open waters or anything like that. When you're in what they call the intercoastal, like this is right here. I mean, we're actually following the coastline of Mobile, Alabama, and Florida. To the right of us, if I mean, there's some streets and property and stuff like that, but the Gulf, the Gulf of Mexico is actually to the right of us, and it's not that far away from us. But because we're in these channels here, it kind of protects you from any weather or any big waves that might be going through. But the weather was fine, and so was the temperature. It was nice and warm. Not warm, but it was comfortable. Just with the breeze coming through over the boat and stuff, it was pretty nice. Had a great time while I was doing this trip here, and now it's time, to start thinking about heading home. Not like I mentioned earlier, I'm really not that far away. I kind of calculated how far I was going to get to. There's a small little town called, I think it was called Navarro, Florida. And that's kind of like my target that I want to try and get to today. I don't know if I will or not, but if I don't, that's still fine. Like I said, I'm not in a hurry to get anywhere. Still gonna, just keep moving until I make it back to Tampa. I'm basically already going into Florida now, so I'm practically 85% done on the trip here. Couple more weeks, I would imagine, maybe 3, all depending on weather. There's still a stretch of water that I'm going to have to cross, and that's going to be out on the Gulf. It's about a 70-mile run, and that's gonna happen when I get to Carabel, Florida, because that's where you make the crossing to on you make actually the crossing through Apalachicola Bay. Is what's that area that it's called, but it's pretty shallow waters there. Plus, there's a lot of oyster beds on there, so they don't like people going through there too often because they don't want the oyster beds disturbed and all that. So it's a 70-mile run from Carabel Island to Stachyahatchee, Florida. And then from there, you still have to follow the coast because the intercoastal doesn't pick up again until you get all the way down to right around Dunedin area, just before you get to Clearwater. There's a couple of islands that actually mark the beginning of the intercoastal there, and that intercoastal, of course, comes all the way down into Tampa Bay. And once you're in Tampa Bay, that's as far as I'm going, is Tampa Bay. You can cross Tampa Bay and get into Fort DeSoto, Egmont Key area, which is basically out on the Gulf. But you pick up the intercoastal there at Anna Marie Island, and then you can continue on the intercoastal there, and that'll go all the way down to Fort Myers, all the way to Naples. And then there in Naples, you have to come out. If you're heading toward the Keys, you have to come out into the Gulf again. But if you follow the coastline, you'll be okay. It's not a big deal. And because I draw very little water, it's not, for me, it's an easy run to make. I didn't make that run on this time around because I went across what they call the Okeechobee Waterway instead of heading down to Biscayne Bay and then going around through Miami, South Beach, and then up into Fort Myers, into Fort Lauderdale and all those areas. I decided just to take that little shortcut and go across Lake Okeechobee. It's still an interesting thing. I've made the run from Tampa to Marathon a few times already, so I kind of knew what's out there and what to expect. So it wasn't that big of a deal that I missed out on something because I have seen it already before. Here I was coming in through just about reaching Florida here. I came about this boat here that was pushed up here, I guess, during one of the hurricanes, and it's sitting up on the property. And as I was going past it, I happened to notice it's got somebody spray painted on it. It's free, so all you have to do is haul it out of there. I don't know what kind of damage, whether it actually sank or whether it got flooded. If it got flooded, obviously you're going to have some major problems because your electrical all have to be replaced and everything. I don't know if they got any fiberglass damage on it. I just got kind of close to it, just so you could have a little bit better look at it. And you can see it says there on the back of it, somebody said get it, it's free. And like I said, all you have to do is find a way to. It would make a pretty good houseboat for somebody to live aboard. Even if the engines weren't running, if it would float, all you have to do is just float it, push it, have somebody tow it or somehow, get a crane to pick it up and put it back in the water. And if it'll float, you can always tow the boat with a small boat somewhere and, put it in a marina at a dock area somewhere and make it a house, slowly get it up and running again if you wanted to. But it's a pretty huge boat, so you'd have to really, really look at it. Is it worth going after and grabbing it? I think for somebody who might want a liveaboard place to live on or something like that, hey, the boat is free. How much can it, it might cost you some money to hire a crane to come pick it up, and if you can even get a crane to the back of the house there, I don't know. You'd have to look at the area and see whether they would even allow you to bring up a crane there. You probably might be able to get a crane on a float, on a barge, that would take you, then you can, by water, come in with the crane, lift the boat up, or even push it back. If you could tie some lines to it or something and get a pretty strong, powerful boat, it might just be able to be pushed back into the water. I don't know. I've never, it's a pretty big boat. It's not a job that, if you have a small little boat, you're just going to tie to it and push it back into the water. It's going to have to probably be a professional job to get it put back into the water. And of course, that's the other thing, is what kind of condition is the bottom? Is it going to float or is it going to sink? Uh, it's hard to say until you actually inspect and look at the damage and what kind of damage there's in it. Is it worth putting back in the water and turning it uh, into a liveaboard place, or even clean it up inside and out and use it as an Airbnb. A lot of people like to do that and live on board a boat for a week or so while they're on vacation. So a lot of things you could do with it, but once again, it's hard to say, you know. But we're actually already in Florida. We just came into Florida here. And what I'm doing now is I came up I went underneath the bridge here and I found this park here. The sun's starting to head down, down a little bit. We're sitting right at about 4:30, which it's quite a bit of traveling. So I decided to go ahead and tie up here. This was a boat ramp here, private or a public boat ramp, and they had bathroom facilities there. So I decided to go ahead and tie up there, and I stayed overnight. Uh, so I didn't make it to Navarro, but I'm hoping, today I'll be in Navarro. So this is actually the next morning, as I was leaving the dock where I stayed overnight. Pretty quiet. Nothing spectacular went on. I did have the Florida wildlife guys come by, and they did stop and they kind of stared at me for a little while I was tied up on that dock. But they never got off and they never came up and said anything to me about it. So I figured, well, as long as they don't say anything, I'm going to go ahead and just stay tied up here. So I spent the night. Nobody bothered me. Everything went according to plan. Uh, Here I am getting finally made it into Navarro, Florida. And that's, of course, up in the Panhandle. I dropped anchor here and I was going to spend the night right here. But the water was kind of choppy and the boat was bouncing around pretty good. I actually should have gone to the other side of the shoreline because the way the wind was blowing, it was bouncing. You can see the waves there. The way the wind was blowing, it was pushing the boat all over the place. Happened to see this guy on a parachute going all over the place, so I decided to film him for a little bit, and then he got in pretty close where I could get a closer shot of him. And after I did that, I went ahead and moved over to the other side of this little cove here. There was a restaurant, and there were also some boat ramps right next to the restaurant, but they had it clearly marked no overnight stays, and you could get your boat confiscated if I did that. You can see the wind here is blowing pretty good, and you can see the boat is moving all over the place. The wakes are pretty strong too. So, and I was close to the beach. I could have let some more line out and let the boat get all the way up to the beach and just walk off. But there's that restaurant there, and there's some docks right in front, right on the side of that restaurant where I did go there and I had dinner there. Yeah, pretty good food. And here we are in Navarro, Florida. Uh, Everything pretty much went okay, except, like I said, I had to move. I was not going to get bounced around all night long, so and it looked like the wind was not going to go anywhere. So I decided, nah, what I need to do is move to the other side of the cove, so that the big buildings that you just saw earlier would block the wind from me and help out a whole lot. And it was pretty shallow, but it was deep enough. I went out deep enough to where it got to about 5, 6 feet. And because I draw 18 inches at 5, 6 feet, even if it was high tide, at low tide you're going to drop 3 feet at low tide. So that would still leave me 3 to 4 feet at low tide. So I figured, oh, I got more than enough depth here to uh, to not ground the boat. And here's the guy coming in. He's already. You can see he's walking this thing now, and he's just controlling, I guess, uh, the parachute, and he's guiding it down. He's got a friend out there on the beach, and he's trying to get it as close as he can to where his friend is, I guess, so he can pick it up. And there's his friend there, and you can see it. This thing just kind of landed almost right by the beach, and then they bring it up. It's actually like a big inflatable parachute. You inflate it, and some of the spars are inflated and stuff like that, and that's kind of what gives it a shape and holds a shape. You can see the board that he's got there. It's got a little hydroplane on the bottom of it. So the whole board was actually coming out of the water, and he was hydroplaning it. Uh, Here's the next morning where the boat ramp is and the docks. You can see the restaurant right in front of me to the left, and to the right were some bathroom facilities and stuff. So I had dropped anchor on the other side, and then in the morning I decided to come here to the dock and go use the bathroom facilities and everything. Grab me a cup of coffee at that little restaurant and a donut, and then decided to go ahead move on my way. So we're now heading in Florida, and we're heading still back on the intercoastal here shortly, and hopefully uh, come into Caravel sometime either tomorrow or the next day. I'm not. We're getting pretty close, and then there from Caravel is where, like I said, we're gonna have to make that crossing on the Gulf side, which is a 70-mile crossing according to my GPS. Uh, so as long as you got smooth waters out on the open water in the Gulf, and the motor's been doing good, everything's been running pretty good, so I should be okay as far as uh, making that one crossing there. And that's about the biggest crossing that's left that I have to make, uh, because the rest of from Stachahachie all the way down to Dunedin, where the intercoastal picks up again, I just follow the shoreline, and I can stay very close if need be. I can get very, very close to the shoreline, and even beach the boat if I have to, if weather turns up bad or not. But so far the weather's been pretty nice. I've had no problem whatsoever dealing with the weather. Uh, and here we go again. We'll go ahead and starting off now. And like I said, we're hoping maybe another day or 2 days we'll be in Caravel, and then cross. Once I cross into Stachahachie, we're practically home. That'll put me 2 days away from going into Tampa Bay, or even 3 days, depending on how much traveling it is and how the water is. I'm like I said, I will be out on the Gulf, but I'll be following the coastline, so I'm not that far away from. If I have to go in and get out of bad weather, or the wakes are too big to handle or anything, that's not a big deal. Right around where that tower is where I dropped anchor, and then I use the docks there to use the facilities in the morning here, just as I was taking off. That was a restaurant there. So this pretty much covers the day now. So it's morning and I'm taking off again. So next video is coming up next. Until then, thank you for watching. Bye.